Welcome to My Zone Online School. My name is Teacher Mutsa. Get your education booklet in our daily newspaper, street sales, or at your school every Monday to Thursday for pre-primary up until grade 3. The lessons are for listening or watching online. Inside the newspapers, there is an insert of the lesson booklet. Please cut the top of the lesson booklet with a pair of scissors and fold it for ready to use. But there is more. We are also available on our online platforms, MyZone and Zoshi Facebook pages, and in addition, our website, Zoshi Online. Hello grade 3s and welcome to My Zone Online School. My name is Teacher Mutsa and thank you so much for joining me today. Our theme this week is culture, traditions and houses. Before we get into any lessons, boys and girls, we need to sanitize. So remember, when we are sanitizing, we are also showing the whole world that we care about staying safe and keeping our loved ones safe as well. Make sure that your hands are dry before you touch anything else. Well done. For today's lesson, we are going to be talking about rounding off to the nearest 10, odd and even numbers, and problem solving. For our exercise now, let's turn to page 21. On 21, we are going to be doing some reading. And the type of reading we're going to be doing is to identify our phonics. So we're going to read the story below and identify all the A sounds. So look out for any words that have an A and an I in it. Let's read the story. Queen Claire, with the fair hair, sits on a chair while she paints her nails and puts on her pair of flat shoes. She has a pain in her leg. She must go to see her son in jail. He raided a ship to gain bait and hit a sailor with a chain. She must travel by train, but the ticket must be paid at the main ticket stall. She moves as slow as a snail, sails but calls the porter to aid her at the stairs. He helped her to hold onto the rail. There were clouds in the air and it rained and hailed pails and pails full while she waited. Her aim to see her son was in vain. The train never came. She went back home as she failed to see her son. Now she will mail a letter to him instead. Woo! What a long passage, but a fun one too. So, I hope you were reading and checking for all the words that have A and I. The next instruction for our phonics is below. It is saying, underline the words seen in the table in the story above. So, you now need to check for the words again in the story. And this time, you're going to underline them as you go. So, I am going to read the story a second time. So so that you can find your answers. I'm going to take it a little bit slow this time so that you can underline. Remember to underline with a pencil just in case you get it wrong. You can always correct it. So let us start again. Remember, you are looking for AI words that are in the table below. So let us start. Queen Claire with the fair hair sits on a chair while she paints her nails and puts on her pair of flat shoes. She has her pain in her leg. She must go to see her son in jail. He raided a ship to gain bait and hit a sailor with a chain. She must travel by train, but the ticket must be paid at the main ticket stall. She moves as slow as a snail sails, but calls at the porter to aid her at the stairs. He helped her to hold onto the rail. There were clouds in the air, and it rained and hailed, pails and pails full while she waited. Her aim to see her son was in vain. The train never came. She went back home as she failed to see her son. Now she will mail a letter to him instead. So this is now the passage. I hope you managed to see all the words that have A in them. Now before we move on, I want to explain the two types of A that we have. The first one on this side has the sound A, and we have it in many words. For example, nail. It also sounds like the word AY when we have A in it as well. So we have the word A, the sound A, and we can even show you things that have the sound A in it. For example, nail. So these are my nails, and they have the AY sound, A. The other A sound that is on this side is the one that has A in it instead of A. So even though we still have our A and I, we say A instead of A. So we have the words like hey, like my hay, my hay. If you can hear, I'm saying A, but it is still spelled with an A and an I. So make sure that you know the difference between A and A and how to say it, like nail and hay. Let's now move on with our exercise. So the last part of our exercise for this page is trying to complete the sentences. Now you're going to fill in the A sound for the following sentences. And afterwards, I'd like you to please read the sentence. So take your time and know which pronunciation you need. Is it A, the one with the AY, or A, the one with the E sound? Take your time with everything. Make sure that you read carefully, and I will see you soon after our advert break.
Do you have children in the age range of 5 to 6 years and want to participate in our school booklet program? Please contact us on 081 74 3759 and we will put you on our distribution list for the attention of pre-primary schools. Topics include family, summer, culture, traditions and houses, transport and communications, occupations, autumn and more. we distribute countrywide in over 7 different languages.
For our exercise now, boys and girls, let's turn to page 23. On page 23, we are going to be doing place value for 3-digit numbers. We're also going to be taking a look at value as well. So the first one that we're going to do is actually the first one in your book. So let's take a look. Remember, the underlined digit is the one that is very important. So we have our 3 numbers here, the 3-digit numbers. So what we're now going to talk about is that this line belongs to Grandpa Hundreds. The next one belongs to Mr. Tens, and the last one belongs to Mrs. Units. So as we are doing these ones, you need to remember that where the number is sitting under is the value and place value. So let's take a look at the first one. We have 537. And we can clearly see that it is the 3 that has been underlined. So if the 3 is the one that has been underlined, that means it is in the tens family. So we can say the number 3 in 537 is tens as the place value. And then if we are looking at the value, we now take a look at what it is the value of. Now we know that our tens, they start from 10 going to 99, which means that it belongs in the tens family because we don't take a look at hundreds. Instead of the 7, it becomes a 0 to say that it belongs in the tens family as a 30. So we know that the value is 30. Let's now take a look at the second one. The second one says 752. Our 7 is the one that is underlined there, and it is sitting under Grandpa Hundreds. So we know that the place value of 7 in 752 is hundreds. So we're going to write the word hundreds. And then when you are done writing the word hundreds, we are also going to be taking a look at the value. Now the value means that how much is it really worth? And since we are dealing with the hundreds, we know that anything after our number changes into a 0. So we have our 700, which means that the value is 700. Then the last one that we have for these kind is 293. So the first thing we do is find out where our digit is sitting, and in this case our digit is sitting under units. So we know that the value of 3 in 293 is units. So we write our word units, and then we take a look at the value. Now remember, Mrs. Units doesn't like too much. She doesn't like to worry too much. So she deals with numbers from 0 to 9. And since there are no zeros behind her, we will just write that our value is 3. So boys and girls, please take your time. You can also put your Grandpa Hundreds, Mr. Tens and Mrs. Units on top of your numbers so that you can remember where the place value is. And then after that, you can take a look at the value, how much it is worth. Let's move on in our exercise. The second part of our exercise is asking us to write the number in standard form. So let us take a look at what that means. Now I have the first one right here on the board as well. And it also says 200 plus 10 plus 3. And I can tell you, boys and girls, I have a very special secret for this one. This one is so easy. If you remember, when we are writing our numbers in standard form, all we need to do is get rid of our zeros. That's all. So if we want to write this number, we write by starting with the 2, and then we ignore our zeros. And then we also ignore the plus sign, and then we write the 1. We ignore our 0, we ignore our plus sign, and then we write our number. So this long number has now become something so small. So our answer, 200 plus 10 plus 3 equals 213. Let's now try another one, the last one in your exercise for the second part. It says 400 plus 40 plus 4. Now remember my little secret, and I said that we cancel the zeros. That's how we do it. So if we write our 4, and then we ignore our zeros, and we write our another 4 and ignore our 0, and then we write the other 4, we have finished our sum. So this long sum has now become 444. So this is how you do it in standard form. So take your time, remove all the zeros and the plus signs, and you will get your answer very quickly. Now the last part of your exercise, the third one, is asking you to write each number in expanded form. Now when they mean expanded form, it is the opposite of what we have just done. So you are now going to take a number. Let's do the first one. Now the first one, this one is also very easy because you are going to write it the way you say it. So if we say 400, then that means we are going to write 400. And then we're going to add, because remember, we want the number to grow. So we said 413. Now we know that this one belongs to Mr. Tens. So we are going to put a 0 with that 1 to make it 10. And then we're going to write plus the last one, which is just a single digit number, that is 3. Now our answer is 400 plus 10 plus 3 from 413. Now I know this is a lot, boys and girls, and I know you might struggle somewhere in between, but it's okay. First, read your question. Check if you know how to do it. Try, but if you don't know, it's okay to ask for help. Just make sure that at the end of the day, you do your own work. So take your time, and I will see you just now after the advert break.
Follow us on MyZone Facebook Active Kids to watch your daily lesson and other fun activities with Zoe and Zoshi.
For our exercise now, let's all turn to page 22. On page 22, we are going to be doing some computations, but this one is a very special one, and I'm going to help you do the first one and the last one. So I need you to pay close attention. Let's take a look at the board. To help us with our computation today, we are going to ask Grandpa Hundreds, Mr. Tens, and Mrs. Units to help us. Now they're going to help us because remember they live in the same family of place values. So if we are going to subtract, we definitely need their help. Now the first one, as always, we always start our subtraction from the unit side. And we say 6 take away 4. Now 6 take away 4 is very easy, so we don't need any counters for that one. If we have 6 and we take away 4, we now have 2. So I'm going to write my answer 2. So far, so good. But the next one says 5 minus 6. 5 minus 6? That's not possible. So we say it can't. You cannot take away 5 things from 6 because you cannot take away things that are smaller from things that are bigger. Now what we are going to do is we are going to do the borrowing method. Now when we borrow, we look for Grandpa Hundreds. He's the one who's going to help us at this time. So we go to Grandpa Hundreds and we say, Grandpa Hundreds, we don't have enough to take away. So can you please give us 10? All we need is 10. Grandpa Hundreds will say, okay, Mr. Tens, I'm going to give you 10. And he will put a line to say that he has given 10. Now we put our line right next to our 1 because we want to show that we have been given 10. And if we have been given 10 and we put a 1, then that means our number now becomes 15. So this is now a 15. Now we can continue adding, but before we do, subtracting. But before we do, we need to thank Mr. Hundreds. Thank you, Mr. Hundreds. So now we have enough to continue. So instead of saying 5 take away 6, now that we have 10 more, we are saying 15 take away 6. Now if we say 15 take away 6, that means we can use our fingers, our number line, or our counters. In this case, our answer will be 9. So we can write our 9. And then because we borrowed from Mr. Hundreds, that means he has 1 less. So we are going to cancel the number 4. And remember, there's 1 that's this side. So if we take away 1 4, that means our new number is 3. And that is what makes the borrowing method work. Because where we have put 1, we need to take away from the other. In this case, we asked Mr. or Grandpa Hundreds for 10, and because he's a big number, he said, okay, we will give you 10. But in giving us 10, that means he's going to have 1 less. So our number changes from 4, we cross it out, and it becomes a 3. And then we say 3 take away nothing. And our answer will be 3. So this is the borrowing method where we look to another place value and we ask for help. And then we cross out for the number to become a smaller number. So this is the answer for number 1. So 456 minus 64 equals 392. Now that we know what to do, let's try the last one. Now the last one in your books is the one I have on the board here. We are going to start as usual from the units, but uh-oh, 8 take away 9? Oh no, so we say it can't. So what do we need to do? We need to borrow. Now the next number we're going to borrow from is not hundreds. He's too far away. So we are going to borrow from tens. And then we say to him, Mr. Tens, please can we borrow 10? And Mr. 10 will say, well, Mrs. Units, okay, I will give you 10. So he is going to give us 10 and he will give us 10, which now changes our 8 into 18 when we put a 1 next to 8. So now we can subtract. And now we can start by saying 18 minus 9. Now what is 18 minus 9? I know the answer, and the answer now is 9. So I will put my 9. But because we borrowed from Mr. Tens, we need to cross out the number that is there. And we say, Mr. Tens now has a 0. So we are going to put a 0 for Mr. Tens. So our number will now say 0 minus 2. Oh, we need to borrow again because 0 minus 2, it can't. We can't do that. So we say to Mr. Hundreds, Grandpa Hundreds, may we please borrow some tens? Then Grandpa Hundreds says, okay, I will give you 1 tens. And we get very happy, so we collect our 1 tens from Grandpa Hundreds. And then because he gave us, we need to cross out the 4 and put a 3. So now we can say 10. Because remember there was a 0 here. If we put a 1, it becomes 10. So we can say 10 take away 2. And what is 10 take away 2, my children? Yes, if you have 10 fingers and you take away 2, you will end up with 8 fingers. So we will put our number 8. Good job, everyone. And now we have our last one. It's no longer a 4 because remember, we gave 1 10 to Mr. Tens so that he can become 10. So our number here is 3 and we say 3 take away nothing. If we say 3 take away nothing, then we will have 3. And this is our final answer. So the sum that said 418 minus 29 now becomes 389. So remember the key rules about borrowing. The first thing you need to see is whether or not we can take away. If it can't, that means you need to go to the next place value and ask for a 10. Now if you ask for a 10, you put a 1 next to the number that couldn't, and then you subtract. But don't forget to remove 1 from the number that gave, so that the borrowing is equal. I want you to try and do the next one by yourself. And if it's still too hard, don't worry, you can ask for help or you can watch me again. So take your time and I will see you after this short advert break.
Do you have children in the age range of 5 to 6 years and want to participate in our school booklet program? Please contact us on 081 74 3759 and we will put you on our distribution list for the attention of pre-primary schools. Topics include family, summer, culture, traditions and houses, transport and communications, occupations, autumn, and more. We distribute countrywide in over 7 different languages.
For our exercise to continue, we are still on page 22. So let's take a look at the last part of our exercise. This time, instead of subtracting, we are adding, plussing to be more precise. Now, this type of plussing is also very different. So I want us to pay attention so that we can get everything correct. Let's take a look at the first one that I have. Now, the first one is also in your book, and it also says 240 plus 64. So what we are always going to start with, boys and girls, no matter what, is Mrs. Units. So we are going to first add 0 plus 4. And 0 plus 4, my dear children, is 4. Very simple here. And then we have 4 plus 6. Now let's try and count that out, because if we have 4 plus 6, that means we have 4, let's use our fingers, plus 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 10, but where are we going to put our 10? Because there's only space for one number. So instead of us carrying that 10, we are going to ask the next number to carry it for us. So we take our 10, we put it in our bag, and then we carry it to Mr. Grandpa Hundreds, and we say, Grandpa Hundreds, we have too much. Please, can you take one? And Grandpa Hundreds will say, okay, I'm going to take one. So we take from our bag and we give it to Grandpa Hundreds. And Grandpa Hundreds now will say to himself, I have 2 plus 1 more. So we know that Grandpa Hundreds has 1 more in his bag. So let us continue. If our answer is 10 and we took 1 and gave it to Grandpa Hundreds, that means we are going to only write the last digit. Because if it is 10 and we took the first one to Grandpa Hundreds, that means we are only left with 0. So we are going to put our 0 because Grandpa Hundreds is holding the 1 for us. So now we move on to Grandpa Hundreds, and he has 2 plus nothing. But that's not really true. Remember, we gave him 1 more. So instead of him having 2, we say plus 1, because remember, we gave him 1. So that 2 changes into 3, because we are counting, carrying on. So that now says that this is a 3. So our final answer, boys and girls, is 304. Now our sum is complete. So let us take a look at the next one. The next one we are also going to be using the same. The first one says 9 plus 4. So we have 9 and we're going to add 4 by counting on. Here's our 4 and we say 10, 11, 12, 13. But 13 is too heavy for us. So we need to ask Mr. Tens for help. So we are going to put our 13 in a bag and carry it all the way to Mr. Tens and say, Mr. Tens, please can you help us? We have a bag of 13. Can you take the 1 and I will take the 3? And he will say, okay, Mrs. Units, you can take your 3 and I will take your 1. So we will put our 3 here, and then we are going to say at the top plus 1 because we have given only 1. So our 13 is here. Now let us continue with our sum. It now says 9 plus 3. So we have 9 and then we have 3 and we're counting on 10, 11, 12. Oh no, it's too big because even after that 12, we need to remember that he has one more. So it becomes 13. Ooh, 13 is too heavy, boys and girls. So we are going to put our 13 in the bag again. And we're going to put it on our shoulder and walk to Mr. Hundreds and say, Grandpa Hundreds, help us. Our bag is too heavy. Please, can you carry the 1 and we will carry the 3. Grandpa Hundreds will look at you and say, okay, I'm going to carry the 1. So we give him plus 1. And then we will be free to carry the 3. Then the next number will now say 8 plus nothing. But that's not true because remember, we gave Grandpa Hundreds 1 more to carry for us. So he will have a 8 plus 1, which will be 9. So our answer will be 9. So we now say 899 plus 34 equals 933. Now I hope you remember all the steps that we're taking for this one. Remember, we carry on when we have 2 digits for 1 place value, and we ask the next place value nicely to carry the first digit so we can add 1. And then we move on to the next and to the next, but never forget that you have added 1 to the top. I will see you just now. Take your time and remember, if you are stuck, you can always ask for help, but please do your work by yourselves, or rather finish it by yourselves. I will see you soon after our advert break.
Follow us on MyZone Facebook Active Kids to watch your daily lesson and other fun activities with Zoe and Zoshi.
We have now come to the end of our lesson, boys and girls, and I hope that you managed to finish all your exercises. Remember, if you're not sure about something, you can always ask for help. Make sure though that you end up doing the work by yourself. Now that we are done with our lesson, we need to sanitize. So please take your sanitizer and you rub inside, remember, around your hands, very good, in between your fingers, on your wrists and your fingertips. Good job. I wonder though, I have not seen Sashi in a long time. I think he's outside. Sashi? Sashi? There he is. Hello, Sashi. So, from Sashi and I, we would like to say thank you for joining us today and goodbye!
Our online school will help you along the way. Find us at www.zoshi.online and download the booklet. Follow us on Facebook to never miss a video. Subscribe to our Zoshi Telegram channel if you want to receive daily updates. Proudly sponsored by Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, Namibian Community Trust, UNICEF for Every Child, My Zone Online School, and Amos Meerkat Syllabus.